We're starting to figure out that there's a lot of things going on underneath of our feet that we haven't really looked at before.
As the state faces a water shortage crisis, people who need that water to make a living are finding ways to save it. From your faucet to wells providing water to cattle and irrigation to crops, water is necessary for life.
And state lawmakers say Kansas is running out of it. But as KAKE's Pilar Pedraza found out, some Kansans who are leading the fight to save Kansas water.
Made up mostly of farmers and ranchers in western Kansas. State leaders say they're making a dent in the problem, but add that all Kansans need to get on board if Kansas wants to avoid the sort of water shortage problems we're already seeing in Colorado and Nevada.
When it's raining a lot, I'm going to grow a lot of grass and I can graze a lot of cows.
But that's something Brian Alexander hasn't seen in a while.
It's pretty clear that it's just been getting drier and drier and drier.
Not that you could tell by looking at Alexander's pastures, where the grass is still green, the water in the streams still flowing.
We have a drought plan that we implement.
It comes down to running fewer cattle on the property so he can let each pasture rest for longer, giving the grass time to develop deeper roots that can reach what water remains underground. It's not easy.
If I've got to destock customer cattle by 40%, that's not quite 40% of my income for the year. So it's been painful, just have to tighten the belt.
But for Alexander, he says it's worth it. His family has been working to conserve water for more than 30 years now. Practices that go far beyond letting grass grow a bit longer. They include things like bringing beaver back onto his land.
What stopped it was the beavers. The beavers came in, they started building their dams and building their structures. And instead of the sediment getting eroded on all these big rains, the beavers are trapping all that sediment and it's all staying here. And even more importantly than that, they're trapping a lot of water. So I can see some signs of some dung beetle activity.
As he works to essentially recreate the ecology of the prairie before agriculture got involved, his soil has increased its ability to hold on to water too.
On order of inches of rain per hour, like 6 inches of rain per hour, plus the monoculture farming that employs a lot of tillage. That soil can maybe absorb 1/4 to 1/2 inch of water per hour.
Now, pictures show the drastic difference between his land and his neighbors. Moving up to northwest Kansas, farmers and ranchers in Sheridan and Thomas counties turned to another method of saving water.
They came together and said, we've got to do something.
They came up with a plan themselves in 2012, limiting how much water each irrigator can pull out of the Ogallala aquifer.
55 inches over a 5-year period. So, yeah, that's on average 11 inches, but there's going to be years, Mother Nature, especially like this year, did not give you what we needed. But in other years, she gives us plenty.
A judge then codified the plan, giving it the power of law. Some folks had to be pulled along, proverbially kicking and screaming.
When we first started those meetings, I'll be honest, there's a couple of times I was surprised we left with inflated tires.
They even filed a lawsuit against the Sheridan 6 Local Enhanced Management Area, or LEMA as it's called, but they lost. And the Sheridan 6 LEMA proved so successful that 5 years later, there was no opposition to signing up for another 5 years. And then another 5 years after that.
One of those petitioners came to me just last year and said, I'm so glad you made me do this. You've made me manage my water.
The original plan called for a 20% reduction in the water irrigators were pumping out of the aquifer.
And they ended up actually reducing about 38%.
And despite the pain of getting started, those inside the Sheridan 6 LEMA found using techniques like water sensors to decide when and how much to irrigate so they only pumped out water when they absolutely needed it, not only saved water, it increased profits.
There was an economic study done in the region at that time that showed those that were inside the Sheridan 6 LEMA were more profitable than those outside.
Oh, cows!
Something Alexander discovered too. Well, he may be running fewer cattle now than before the drought started.
I can do 50 to 100% better than the county average on my stocking rate.
So while you may have to occasionally cut down on the number of cows that you have because of the weather,
I'm still probably running more cows per acre than most of my neighbors.
State water leaders say it's practices like these that will make a difference once more Kansans start using them. And we are starting to see that happen, at least with the LEMAs. More are forming around the state. So what role do state lawmakers here at the State House play in all that? I talk to them new tomorrow on KAKE News.
From the State House, Pilar, Pedraza, Cake News on your side.